Bueno, muy bien, muchísimas gracias a Nils. Graham, I don't know if you heard me. Please, if you can confirm, we suppose that yes, but if you can confirm it, please, only to know that you are there.
I am here indeed, and I'm just about to share my screen as well.
Thank you. Realmente, bueno, a mí me prepararon un poquito de emoción, pero tener aquí al creador de ONIX, al creador del estándar TIMA, es un poco espectacular, digamos, por todo el trabajo que hemos venido haciendo nosotros, y bueno, también tú lo conoces porque tú haces parte, estás muy vinculado también todos los temas que se están haciendo desde EDItEUR. Graham Bell es el director ejecutivo de EDItEUR. Es el responsable del desarrollo integral de los estándares de EDItEUR y de los servicios de gestión que presta en nombre de otras agencias de normalización, incluido la agencia ISNI y la Fundación Internacional DOI. Se incorporó a EDItEUR como arquitecto de datos en el año 2011, lo cual quiere decir que todo lo que ha pasado en ONIX, que va a ser un poco la conversación de hoy, el estándar tema, pues obviamente ha tenido que pasar por las manos de Graham, donde Graham se centró en el desarrollo continuo y la aplicación de ONIX para libros, así como otros estándares que desarrolla EDItEUR. He mencionado el estándar tema y otros estándares que ellos tienen para los sectores del libro y las publicaciones seriadas. Anteriormente, Graham trabajó para HarperCollins Publishers en el Reino Unido, donde fue director de sistemas de publicación, lideró el desarrollo de sistemas de gestión de activos bibliográficos y digitales y participó en el lanzamiento de numerosas iniciativas digitales en HarperCollins, como audiolibros electrónicos y programas de impresión bajo demanda. Cuenta con más de 2 décadas de experiencia en ONIX Books. Antes de incorporarse a HarperCollins, trabajó como periodista y editor para TI dentro del sector de las revistas, diversas revistas en esta área de conocimiento. La sección de Graham la hemos llamado Impulsando la edición académica, el impacto estratégico del estándar ONIX 3.1. En este momento se ha hecho un cambio muy grande, que ya lo tenemos encima del estándar 3.0 al estándar 3.1. Y además, pues, Graham nos va a dar otros, digamos, conceptos sin ser demasiado técnicos. Aquí queremos explorar el papel transformador de ONIX como esa gran base de programación, el paso a ONIX 3.1 como estándar global para abordar las necesidades cambiantes de la edición académica y científico-técnica. Graham va a analizar estos detalles de este estándar, incluyendo su mejor soporte para productos digitales, metadatos multilingües, distribución internacional ágil. Nuestra idea es que ustedes puedan constatar en esta última versión de ONIX 3.1 cómo se promueve la interoperabilidad, cómo se simplifican los flujos de trabajo y se empodera a los editores para enfrentar desafíos globales. Y esta charla también destacará estrategias prácticas para que los tomadores de decisiones adopten estos estándares de manera efectiva, con ejemplos de implementación en el panorama editorial académico de Iberoamérica, ideal para líderes que buscan aprovechar los metadatos como catalizador de innovación y colaboración en una industria en rápida evolución. Sin más preámbulos, Graham, thank you very much to accept our invitation. For us, it's an honor that you are with us here, and please go ahead. We are viewing your screen. Thank you, Graham.
Well, thank you, Jaime. And first of all, I should say it's my honor. Thank you very much for inviting me to address this group. So, first of all, for a little about me, I've been around in the publishing industry for, well, all my career, but specifically in the books world for the last 25 years, and always working on both the publishing side of our business and the technology side. For many years, I worked for HarperCollins in the UK, technically in the art department. I was very well known for being in the IT department, but I was very well known for being the person in IT on their first day, moved their desk into the art department because I felt that was a better place for me. It gave me an insight into both the technical side and the creative side of our industry. And they're both important to me and important to the progress of most publishers. I spent 14 years at HarperCollins, and 14 years ago joined EDItEUR, primarily to guide the development of ONIX which at that time was still ONIX 2.1, and I'm now responsible for the organization as a whole. For those of you who don't know EDItEUR, we're a not-for-profit membership organization, so we're supported by members all around the world. We develop, we create, we support, we promote various standards for metadata and for identification. Those standards are applicable to the book world globally, and they apply to any sort of book, physical book, digital book, audio book of all sorts. EDItEUR is best known for creating ONIX, but also these days, and very important to us, is a slightly newer standard called THEMA, which is a subject category scheme for the global book trade. And as Jaime also said, we provide services to the DOI Foundation and the ISNI International Agency. We're physically based in London in the United Kingdom, but our membership is global. We have members in Japan and China and Korea and Australia, in South Africa, and of course in Europe and North America as well. At the moment, I don't think we have a member in South America, but we have had at various points in the past. Much more important is that our members are spread throughout the supply chain as well. We have publishers who work with us, but we also have retailers and libraries, system vendors and distributors and other trade associations. And this, both global spread geographically and spread throughout the supply chain, gives us a privileged view of the way that the publishing industry works, because we have that communication with our members who do all the different roles along the supply chain. So I was asked to talk about ONIX 3.1. And what I want to emphasize from the outset is that ONIX 3.1 is not new. There's a 25-year history of ONIX, and ONIX 3.1 is the continuation of actually nearly 15 years worth of incremental development of ONIX 3. ONIX 3.0 was released in early 2009, and we've continued to develop it, continued to add new features to it, but also continued to simplify it somewhat. We've continued to build education collateral as well, so that it becomes easier to use. Now, the latest version is ONIX 3.1, but there were 10 little updates before that, leading up to 3.0.8. That was the latest version of ONIX 3 about 4 years ago, 3 years ago even. But we've gone beyond that now. We've released a 3.1. And to be honest, that ONIX 3.1 could have been called ONIX 3.0.9, because in fact, the only reason that we've changed it from 3.0 to 3.1 is actually the removal of a few fields. We removed a few fields that people didn't use, and we've added to it as well. The addition of new data fields, we just increment the third number. But if we take fields away, in general, the second number gets incremented. So ONIX 3.1 is not new. What we're talking about is the latest version of something that's been developing over the last decade or more. And that's actually part of the way that EDItEUR works. A lot of people think that data standards are kind of fossils. We record and we fossilize the way that we used to do it in the past. For us, standards are very different. Standards are forward-looking. Standards are living. Standards have to keep developing, keep moving forward, because they have to support a business model. And as business models change, the standards have to change as well. Standards evolve alongside the businesses that they support. And that evolution is enabled by EDItEUR and its members who watch out, who work in the supply chain and become aware of new issues or new metadata that can be put into the ONIX that we can incorporate into future versions. So I want to emphasize that ONIX does what it has always done. It provides a robust, standard, and widely accepted data file format for describing books, books of all types, ebooks, audiobooks, as well as physical. And there's 3 different types of data carried in the ONIX file. First of all the bibliographic details, the title, the author, the ISBN, the publication date, the subject matter, the intended audience, collection details, the language of the book is in, all those bibliographic details that you might find in a typical library catalogue. But what you won't find in a typical library catalogue, for the most part, is marketing material. ONIX carries marketing material that a publisher can provide to anybody who's trading in that book. Descriptions of the book, a front cover, of course, photographs of the author, and all sorts of other different types of marketing material. And then the third thing, or the second thing you won't necessarily find in a library catalogue is the commercial arrangements for putting that book in the market. Where is it sold, by whom, how much for, which may of course be 0, and the details of the distribution arrangements in any particular country. Those 3 types of metadata, the bibliographic details, the marketing collateral, and the commercial arrangements, the way they are described in ONIX is deliberately intended to be globally applicable. We try to create a standard that works not just in Great Britain, where we're based, or in the United States of America. We try to create an ONIX that works for everybody in every place. And to evidence that, I suppose, I would say that ONIX is widely used in Japan, a little in Korea, in China as well. Book trades that we're not familiar with, but we work with our members to make sure that we incorporate their requirements as well. As a global standard, ONIX is, of course, multi-language. Doesn't matter what language your book is in. It also doesn't matter what language your metadata about the book is in. We can cope with titles in any language. We can cope with prices in any currency. There's a global applicability about it. And also, I suppose, because of that global application of the standard, ONIX often provides a shared lexicon, a shared way of publishers and booksellers around the world to communicate, because we don't always agree on the meanings of certain words. In English, at least, the phrase publication date means radically different things to different organizations. The phrase edition has at least 4 separate meanings in English. And I suspect that same is true in many other languages too. So ONIX provides definitions that are used within ONIX. We're not saying everybody has to use our definitions, but we do say when you are dealing with ONIX, use our definitions. And our standards also come with governance. They are not designed for the benefit of a few publishers in the UK or a couple of North American retailers. The governance and the way that we manage and develop the standard ensures, at least as much as we can, that this standard retains its global applicability. And then we make it free to use for everybody. Because of that freedom, ONIX is built into a whole ecosystem of data management applications. These are software that a publisher might use or a retailer might use to handle the metadata. Metadata going out from a publisher metadata being received by a data recipient. Some of those applications are more specialized for trade publishers. Some of those applications are more specialized for academic or scholarly publishing. All that data in ONIX is used by the commercial book trade because it makes it simpler. It makes it simpler for the likes of Amazon to receive massive amounts of rich metadata sent by publishers. And it reduces the supply chain costs. But it's equally applicable to scholarly publishing as well. Scholarly publishers need to get information about their books out into the market because that rich metadata boosts discoverability and sales if you're not dealing with open access. That ONIX can also be used to drive internal data exchanges within a publisher or perhaps between a publisher and its own website. And most of the things in ONIX, and particularly that first set of data, the bibliographic data, is very clearly mappable to the sorts of metadata standards used by libraries. So if we're talking about RDA, resource description access, and MARC for machine readable cataloging, you can map from ONIX into MARC relatively straightforwardly. Two examples of organizations that do that at scale would be the Library of Congress in the United States of America and OCLC, the Cooperative Cataloging Organization. Now, for those of you that perhaps have got lost in that description of what ONIX is, then there's a kind of 15-minute pre-recorded briefing at that URL, which you can take a screenshot of probably now. So if you're not familiar with ONIX, take a look at that. And there's Spanish subtitles on that video. But of course, what you really want to know is what we've added recently. And so we've added a great deal of support for open access publishing, not just at a per book level, but individual chapters within a book can be labeled as open access. And we make sure that the licenses can be linked, that the funders can be credited, and can be linked to repositories. And of course, the DOAB and OPEN make use of ONIX. We've added support for persistent identifiers that you'll be familiar with, like ORCID and ISNI and ROR, to ensure that when books are published, the correct academic credit can be given. We've made it possible to support responsible declarations of artificial intelligence use. If you're using AI to create a translation, as I understand we are doing now, then that can be credited in the metadata for a book. And if you're using print on demand, a couple of years ago, we introduced Block 8. It was actually the last thing we introduced to ONIX 3.0. And that can transform the amount of work it takes to set up a product for print on demand. It delivers the manufacturing detail that a POD manufacturer needs. So here's a quick example. I want to go through these very quickly because they're quite technical and they don't go over well in a presentation like this. This is how you might use ONIX to link a license to a particular open access book. That will be the legal text of the license, and you can also supply a pointer to a summary of the license that might be understood by non-lawyers. You'll see from all of this that ONIX is XML based. This is how you might credit a publisher, but we can also credit funders. That role 16 is the role of the funder of an open access publication. And we can add persistent identifiers. At the top there, we have an ISNI, an International Standard Name Identifier for Springer Nature. And for Wellcome Trust, as an example, I've added the Wellcome Trust ROR, Research Organization Registry, I think. Very quickly, this is a credit for an AI-based translation. So the first two contributors might well be the authors, but then it's been translated into a different language by an AI. And of course, you can specify the languages involved. And finally, slightly more complex, this is an example of block 8. Wouldn't worry too much about the details, but what we have here is, in effect, a file manifest. This is the file that a POD manufacturer would need to create the print cover of a POD book. And you can describe certain elements of the cover specification as well. Further down, we have information about the various bits of the specification for the body of the book, the paper types, and so on. And if we look a little lower down, we can also see the manifest for the file that you would need in order to create the body of the book. And there might, in fact, be 2 files, as you can see there, for the first couple of chapters and then for the rest of the book. Block 8 provides you with this ability to deliver everything that a print-on-demand manufacturer would require. So, to sum up, I'd say that scholarly presses, they're a part of a much broader global supply chain for books, and almost everything that applies to a commercial publisher applies equally to a scholarly press. There may be some other things that a scholarly press also requires, but those are catered for in ONIX. The international nature of the standard is really important, and the metadata supply chain that spans the world, the language of that supply chain is broadly ONIX. The standard really helps level the playing field, particularly for small presses, because the smaller press can be delivering metadata that's exactly the same quality or better than the big commercial publishers. It increases the visibility of your scholarly books around the world. But that's really all I want to say right now. I'm very happy to take questions and to point you at further examples. And you can, of course, contact me by email at any time as well. So, questions.
No tenemos mucho tiempo para preguntas. Si alguien tiene alguna pregunta, mano levantada. We have 3-4 minutes for one more question. Entonces, primera pregunta, por favor, con el micrófono para que Graham pueda escuchar. Adelante, por favor.
Gracias, Jaime. ¿Me puedes ayudar con la traducción?
Sí, dale.
Mi pregunta básicamente es, no vi una etiqueta para Reflist. Me gustaría saber, pues ya que hablamos de interoperatividad, si habría una opción de tener esa etiqueta en el caso de los libros.
¿Estás hablando de etiqueta para evaluadores?
Referencias bibliográficas.
Okay, sí la llave, pero vamos a preguntarle. Graham, we have a question from one of the posters. The question is if the ONIX has some type of tag referred to the bibliographical reference into the code. I suppose that yes, that ONIX has a specific tag for a field tag for a reference, bibliographical reference. Please, if you can say something about that.
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by bibliographic reference, but I think you probably noticed in the examples that there are lots of XML tags, just over 500 different XML tags that define particular types of data. So if you want a biography of the author, there is a tag called biographical note. If you want the ISBN, then there isn't a tag called ISBN, but ISBN is one of the options with a particular tag called product identifier. So each tag has a purpose, and each purpose almost certainly has a tag. If you could let me know a little more about what you mean by bibliographic reference, I could probably tell you what the tag was.
Correct. Anyway, Alberto later can share with us some ideas about that. Yo no puedo dejar de terminar esta presentación sin hacer una pregunta para Graham que puede parecer muy elemental, pero que hay que hacerla. y es que toda esa cantidad de código que vimos ahí, pues todo esto en un sistema de gestión de metadatos, ustedes lo saben muy bien, se puede manejar y administrar de una manera muy eficiente, como lo estamos haciendo en CIME. Quiero preguntarle a Graham sobre ese consejo que puede haber para algunos editores que todavía el tema de los metadatos no lo ven como una urgencia o como una necesidad inminente. Lo llamamos aquí en esta conferencia como metadatos con propósito. Then, Graham, this will be maybe a very elemental questions. We have a tremendous success cases of publishers that are doing incredible things with the metadata, you know, CIME, because from the beginning, our metadata platform, and many publishers are using a strategic use of the metadata. But the question, it would be simple. What would be your advice for those publishers that maybe they don't recognize the importance of the metadata, because maybe we think that the metadata is to put content or why it's important? This is a very elemental question, but why is important and fundamental for the publishing sector? Thank you, Graham.
Yes, okay, so I think it's fundamental because there are a very many books. If you just look at the United Kingdom, a relatively small country, we have around 200,000 new books published every year. And given that huge volume of books, it's really important that your book is discoverable. If you don't put your metadata out there in the market, your book very nearly doesn't exist. You need to put the metadata out there so that people can discover it. And ONIX helps you optimize that metadata so as to optimize that discoverability. The sheer volume, the sheer number of books published every year makes metadata important because, well, 20 years ago, the book itself sat on a shelf in a bookshop. But these days, that's not really true. And it's the metadata that sits in a database that allows your book to be discovered and traded and sold.
Perfect.
So volume is the answer, I think.
Thank you very much, Graham, for your time. I have the opportunity to talk later with you. Thank you for your contribution. For us, it's very important, and have a very good day. Bye-bye, Graham. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bueno.